You've probably heard of Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning. It's this incredible book that's supposed to be a lifeline for, well, millions of people. But what happens when a book designed to give you hope does the exact opposite? What if it leaves you feeling totally doomed? That's the paradox we're diving into today. And look, for so many people, this book is an absolute game changer. I mean, you see comments like this one from a Reddit user. They call it one of the best and most haunting books they've ever read. And that makes sense, right? It's the go-to recommendation for anyone feeling lost, a guide for finding that why that keeps you going. But then you stumble across this, a completely different take from another user, Eager Question. They say the same book left them feeling like I am actually doomed. Not inspired, not hopeful, doomed. For them, it wasn't a path forward. It was a brick wall. So that's the big question here, isn't it? How is this possible? How can one book about surviving the absolute worst hit people in such wildly different ways? We're going to break it down. Okay, so first, let's get on the same page about the book's main idea. Viktor Frankl, he was a psychiatrist who survived the Holocaust. And his whole argument is that our main drive in life isn't chasing pleasure, it's finding meaning. He tested this idea in the most extreme conditions imaginable and came out with this powerful conclusion. If you have a why to live for, you can get through almost any how. Okay, now let's flip the coin and look at this counter-narrative. We have this user, Eager_Question, who's been dealing with chronic depression for years. Their psychologist recommended the book, which makes total sense. But for them, it didn't spark inspiration. It just felt alienating. The message completely missed the mark. And their reaction here is just so raw and honest. They said, I'm pretty sure I would just have died by way of electrified fence. The despair would end me. Wow. This isn't some philosophical disagreement. They're feeling this on a gut level. It's not an academic exercise for them. It's about survival. So what's going on here? To really get why these two experiences are so different, we've got to look at Frankl's actual framework. You know, how did he say you find meaning? Well, the Reddit discussion breaks it down really nicely into 3 main paths. So here they are. You can find meaning through your work or by serving others. You can find it through love. And you can find it in the way you face suffering. Now, these are supposed to be sources of incredible strength. So let's dig into how each one, for some people, can feel like a total dead end. Okay, path number 1, meaning through work or a creative act. Frankl himself is the perfect example. In the camps, his life's work, his manuscript was taken from him. His whole purpose became rewriting it. It was this unique thing that only he could do, and that gave him a powerful reason to stay alive. But then you look at Eager_Question's experience. They're a writer too. But for them, trying to write doesn't feel like some grand purpose. When you're in that dark place of depression, it just feels like, as they put it, hubris and self-obsession. So the very thing that's supposed to save you just becomes another stick to beat yourself with. All right, on to path number 2, love. Frankl talks about a man in the camp who survived purely by holding on to the image of his daughter. That connection was totally unique, irreplaceable. He was the only one who could be her father, and that thought alone gave his life meaning. And yet, here again, we see how depression can just warp this beautiful idea. Eager_Question says they love their family, but it doesn't feel like a motivation. Instead, it feels like being trapped, like shackles. The very connection that's supposed to be a lifeline ends up feeling like a heavy anchor pulling you down. And that brings us to the 3rd path, probably the most famous one, finding meaning in suffering. The classic story Frankl tells is about an old man who was devastated after his wife died. Frankl helped him see that his suffering had a purpose. By outliving her, he spared her the immense pain he was now feeling. His grief had meaning. But for Eager_Question, this just feels like a cruel joke. Their suffering doesn't feel like some noble journey of growth. It just feels destructive. Like it's chipped away at what I used to be, leaving them weaker. So trying to find a grand purpose in that, it feels hollow, like you're just trying to put a positive spin on misery. So it really seems like we're stuck, right? Frankl's paths to meaning just don't seem to work for someone in this state of mind. But then somebody else in the conversation drops a comment that changes everything. It's a small shift in thinking, but it's absolutely huge. It's not what you expect of life, but what life expects of you. And that right there is the core of Frankl's actual message. See, the point isn't to sit around wondering what the grand abstract meaning of life is. The whole idea is to flip that question on its head. So check this out. We spend so much time asking, what is the meaning of my life? It's this big, passive question that kind of puts all the pressure on life to give us an answer. But Frankl says, no, you're asking the wrong question. The real question is, what is life asking of me? See the difference? That's an active question. It's about responsibility. It's about what you're gonna do right now in this moment. And this shift in thinking points to a really key idea from Frankl's other writings. It explains exactly why going on a direct search for meaning can be so frustrating and why it felt like such a dead end for eager question. Listen to what Frankl himself said about this. He wrote, "Success, like happiness, cannot be pursued, it must ensue." He's saying you can't just chase happiness head on. It doesn't work that way. Happiness happens as an unintended side effect of dedicating yourself to something bigger than you are. And there it is. That's the light bulb moment. What if meaning works the exact same way? What if it's not something you go out and find? What if it's something that just shows up when you're not even looking for it? This changes the whole game. The feeling of a meaningful life isn't the goal you aim for. It's the byproduct. It's what you get as a consequence of pouring yourself into something outside of yourself. It's the result of your actions when you're busy answering that question, what is life asking of me right now? You know, another user in the thread, Munificent, summed this up perfectly. They said the book is a map, but you still have to walk the road. Frankl's book isn't some magic pill that just injects meaning into your life. It's a guide. It shows you where the paths are, but you still have to do the walking. And that brings us right back to where we started, with eager questions struggle. And here's the thing. Feeling that pain, that disconnect with the book, that isn't a sign of failure. It's not that they didn't get it. That struggle is the process. It's what it feels like to walk the road, especially when the road is incredibly hard. So in the end, Frankl's message isn't some nice, comforting pat on the back. It's actually a challenge. It's saying that meaning isn't some trophy you find at the end of a quest. It's a responsibility you choose to pick up over and over every single day. So that really just leaves one question to think about. What is life asking of you today?